Have you ever pondered why some wives appear to become more and more irritated with their husbands over time? Many long-term marriages deal with this reality. What used to feel like a close relationship can occasionally degenerate into everyday annoyance, quiet bitterness, or even open animosity. However, why does this occur? Why do so many women feel disengaged, worn out, or even bitter toward the person they once made the decision to spend their life with after decades of marriage? We'll examine the underlying causes of the change in this video, ranging from years of unvoiced annoyance to changing emotional demands. Over time, marriages might become strained due to certain tendencies. Many of these changes occur gradually, so slowly that neither party notices them until the warmth eventually disappears and is replaced with dissatisfaction, resentment, or even regret. The truth is, though, that by comprehending these trends, you can gain a clearer perspective on both your own and other people's marriages. And by identifying these indicators, there's still time to turn things around, get back in touch, and rebuild a satisfying connection. The reasons for this change may surprise you, so stay with me through to the conclusion. These are more than minor grievances or annoyances. Deeper emotional and psychological dynamics are at work, ones that have been influencing relationships for years without anyone noticing. And after we're through, you might have a completely different perspective on your current marriage or even previous relationships. Before we start, I advise you to turn on the bell and subscribe if you haven't already so you don't miss any videos. Please enter 1 in the comments if you like this video. Please write 0 in the comments if you don't like it so I can improve the films for you. Let's get going now. First of all, years of unappreciated emotional work. The burden of emotional labor, years of managing the home, taking care of the family, and fostering the relationship, is one of the main causes of women's growing resentment of their husbands as they get older. Cooking, cleaning, and other physical chores are only a few examples of emotional work. It's about the invisible mental and emotional labor that keeps a marriage intact. Remembering birthdays, monitoring family calendars, mediating disputes, and constantly making sure that everyone else's needs are satisfied. Women are frequently responsible for these duties, and after decades of doing so, fatigue sets in. Many men believe that they fulfilled their responsibilities just because they put in a lot of effort to support their families. However, a marriage is much more than just providing for one another. It's about putting forth the effort to emotionally show up and make a lady feel appreciated for all that she does. Resentment subtly grows if a woman spends decades taking care of everything, raising the children, running the household, and adhering to social obligations, and her husband never really notices or appreciates that work. Consider a 72-year-old retired teacher named Carol. She worked full-time, raised 3 kids, and made sure her husband's life was going well for years. She organized the food for each holiday. She selected presents on each birthday. She kept track of their doctor's appointments, kept up their friendships, and ensured that everything in their lives felt planned and comfortable. But when she looked back, she saw that no one had ever helped her in the same way. Her spouse never complimented her for her efforts or inquired if she needed assistance. And now, decades later, she was tired instead of feeling love. The fact that emotional labor is unseen is what makes it so annoying. He can never get why she has become aloof or bitter if a woman spends her entire marriage making sure everything goes as planned and her husband never recognizes that effort. She hit her limit, not that she changed all of a sudden. The question of how appreciation evolves over time is another. Small actions like saying thank you or congratulations might have sufficed in the early years of a marriage. However, if a husband believes that his wife will take care of everything without his help after decades of marriage, he makes her feel more like a caregiver than a partner. And once that emotion takes hold, love begins to wane and is replaced with emotional weariness and frustration. In actuality, women don't suddenly decide to be angry with their spouses. Small moments add up to years of feeling invisible, which breeds resentment. And it's only normal for a woman to start withdrawing if she believes that her emotional contributions have been ignored for decades. You are not alone if this sounds familiar to you or if you have ever felt undervalued in a relationship. Many women go through this, frequently without recognizing it until years later. The second is feeling more like a roommate than a wife. It can be extremely unpleasant for many women to feel as though they are living with a roommate instead of their husband as the years pass. There is passion excitement, and a strong emotional bond throughout the first few years of marriage. The romance eventually wanes and is replaced by a partnership that feels more like two people living together under one roof if both spouses stop making an effort to keep the relationship going. This transformation takes time for many women. It happens gradually. It could start out with a few missed evenings or a dearth of meaningful discussions. After a while, she discovers that she and her spouse are no longer genuinely linked because of the same routines, habits, and surface-level interactions. Even if they may watch TV in the same room and eat meals together, the intimacy is gone. She no longer perceives herself as wanted or seen. She feels more like a roommate than a spouse. Consider Linda, a retired nurse who is 69 years old. She shared her dreams, went on long walks, and joked with her spouse in the early years of their marriage. But the talks became shorter with time. He no longer inquired about her day. He sat in solitude or watched TV more often. Eventually, they started leading distinct but parallel lifestyles. The worst thing? He was completely unaware. Nothing had changed in his opinion, but everything had to Linda. Because many men believe that their labor is done once they are married, this change occurs in many marriages. They forget that partnerships need constant work to succeed and think that just being in the house is sufficient. They fail to understand that a woman who experiences years of emotional disconnection not only feels lonely, but also resentful. Just as much as they require physical closeness, women also need emotional connection. They must have meaningful talks and feel valued and wanted. A husband gradually becomes someone his wife dislikes if he stops trying, if he stops flirting, when he stops complimenting, when he stops demonstrating genuine interest. Because a woman starts to question, why am I even here? When she no longer feels wanted. The fact that many women attempt to correct this before giving up is another unpleasant reality. They mention it. They communicate what they require. They demand greater attention, affection, and connection. However, she gradually stops asking if those demands are not answered or are seen with apathy. Furthermore, a woman's emotional detachment is irreversible once she gives up on re-establishing contact. You're not alone if this speaks to you. Many women experience this, bearing the burden of an unexpected emotional distance in their marriage. Please leave a number 2 comment below to let me know if you are still viewing this video and finding these ideas helpful. Your interaction enables me to keep producing content that encourages and supports you. The third is unresolved disputes that have accumulated over time. The accumulation of unsolved conflicts, small fights, disappointments, and emotional wounds that were never fully addressed is one of the most harmful reasons why women get resentful of their spouses as they get older. These unsolved problems don't simply go away with time. Instead, they accumulate, generating layers of annoyance that eventually develop into bitterness. Many couples develop the bad habit of ignoring issues rather than resolving them. Small things like a contemptuous remark, a forgotten anniversary, or an unresolved fight could be the beginning. A lady may initially overlook it, believing it is not worth the struggle. However, as the years pass, those minor setbacks begin to accumulate. She soon discovers that her spouse has harmed her in 1,000 little ways, starting with a forgotten apology here and an unfulfilled expectation there. Together, they build a barrier that seems insurmountable, but none of them is strong enough to end the marriage on their own. Consider Patricia, a retired accountant who is 74 years old. Her marriage appeared steady from the outside, as she had been married for more than 40 years. She harbored years of bitterness, nevertheless. She recalled each instance in which her husband had broken a commitment he never kept. Each time her demands had been downplayed, and each time her feelings had been disregarded. Over time, she stopped fighting, stopped expecting change, and stopped believing her husband genuinely cared about her sentiments. She had previously voiced her grievances, but they were always dismissed with a, "You're overreacting," or a, "That was years ago. Why bring it up now?" This is a very typical motif. Because they never found closure, many women harbor unresolved emotions. Furthermore, whether on purpose or not, a male conveys the idea that his wife's sentiments are unimportant when he consistently downplays or ignores her worries. There is no greater source of bitterness than emotional neglect of such nature. The way that unresolved disagreement alters a woman's perception of her husband is another risky feature. Love, admiration, and a sense of cooperation are present at the beginning of a marriage. But such good sentiments begin to wane when disagreements are never fully settled. A woman who used to view her husband as her greatest friend can now perceive him as someone who ignores her needs, someone who doesn't listen, and someone who has evolved into more of an enemy than a partner. The worst thing? Many males are unaware that this is taking place. They believe that everything must be all right if she isn't fighting. They confuse stillness with tranquility, but in practice, silence frequently indicates that a woman has given up on making her voice heard. If you've ever wondered, why should I even bother bringing it up? After feeling like your frustrations have been ignored for years, remember that you're not alone. Innumerable ladies have gone through this. Fourth, a priority change that makes her feel unfulfilled. Women's priorities and ambitions change as they get older, frequently in ways that their husbands are unaware of or unable to adjust to. Raising children, running a household, or helping a spouse with their work can all seem like a part of a life that has come to an end. Many women eventually reach a point where they desire more, whether it is a stronger emotional bond, personal development, or a renewed sense of autonomy. However, it causes a painful rift when their husbands continue to follow the same patterns without realizing these changes. Many women have sacrificed their personal needs and aspirations for years in order to support their families. They prioritize taking care of everyone else, keeping things stable, and raising kids. However, after the children have grown up and the household no longer needs the same amount of care, they notice something is lacking. Furthermore, many women feel stuck in a life that no longer fulfills them if their husbands have not changed with them, if they still expect the same dynamic as when they were younger. Consider Helen, a retired librarian who was 68 years old. She prioritized her family for decades. She organized family trips, assisted with schoolwork, and devoted limitless energy to maintaining a cozy and inviting house. However, now that she was retired, she felt the need to do new things. She wanted to take up activities she had never had time for, travel, and join social clubs. However, her spouse, he had no interest in trying anything new and was perfectly happy to spend every evening in front of the television. He didn't understand she wasn't pleased the way things were, but he would brush it off every time she suggested doing anything new, stating, "I'm happy the way things are." This is the point of resentment. A woman who has prioritized others throughout her life begins to notice that no one is doing the same for her. She starts to yearn for a life that feels meaningful, but she starts to view her spouse as a barrier rather than a partner if he doesn't interact with her or change with her. And that change in perspective is what transforms a little annoyance into something far more serious. Not only do priorities shift, but many men fail to acknowledge this shift until it's too late. They fail to recognize that their wives want more from life today and presume they will always be happy in the same role they have played for years. A distance that is nearly impossible to overcome without significant effort is created when a woman feels as though she is outgrowing her marriage while her spouse stays stagnant. Growing older shouldn't be a time of monotony and repetition, but of fresh opportunities. Resentment isn't just about boredom when women feel like they're still growing, but their husbands have stopped. It's also about feeling like they're being prevented from living the life they now desire. You're not alone if this sounds familiar to you. If you've ever felt that your priorities have changed, but your husband continues to act in the same way. As they get older, many women go through this. Please leave me a number 4 comment below to let me know if you are still viewing this video and finding these ideas helpful. Your interaction enables me to keep producing content that encourages and supports you. Number 5, insufficient physical and emotional support. The gradual but indisputable decline in emotional and physical affection is one of the most agonizing causes of women's resentment toward their husbands as they get older. Even while all marriages change over time, many women experience a profound sense of unwelcomeness, unlove, and disconnection from the person they formerly felt the closest to when attachment entirely wanes. Hugs, kisses, and other simple acts of affection that make a woman feel valued are common at the start of a relationship. However, as time goes on, a lot of husbands become complacent and forget that affection is essential to maintaining love and is not merely a stage of marriage. Some ladies didn't have a big confrontation or a dramatic moment, when they recognized things had changed. It was just the gradual awareness that the fun flirtation, the considerate remarks, and the little gestures had vanished. Consider Sharon, a retired secretary who was 71 years old. She recalled how she and her husband used to stroll hand in hand, how he would put a soft hand on her back while they conversed, and how he would simply give her a nice hug. Now, though, he hardly gave her the same glance. Talks had become pragmatic, involving bills or running errands. They felt very different when they sat on the couch together. Once she had mentioned it to him, saying, "I miss the way things used to be." How did he react? She understood that he didn't see the issue at all when she said, "We're too old for that now." A lot of men are unaware that affection is about emotional stability as much as romance. Women's desires to feel loved, important, and beautiful never go away. Not only does a woman feel alone when her husband stops being affectionate, but she also feels invisible. One of the most severe injuries a marriage may cause is that. Age-related changes in physical closeness are another problem. Many couples have times when their desires naturally change, particularly when they deal with health issues or physical changes. But the lack of effort to maintain emotional ties is what many women dislike, not the decline in physical intimacy. A husband gradually turns his wife into a cohabitant rather than a woman when he stops making tiny gestures of affection, such as complimenting her or offering warmth. The harsh reality is that women not only grow accustomed to this, they begin to dislike it. They are angry because their requirements have not been met. They are angry because their emotional desire has been disregarded. Although their husband has determined that affection is no longer required, they still yearn for connection, which they find frustrating. A lot of ladies attempt to correct this before giving up. They seem to want to be closer. They point up the absence of love. They show their sorrow. But soon they cease asking if those worries are dismissed, disregarded, or made fun of. Furthermore, when a woman stops requesting love, it's not because she no longer desires it, but rather because she has come to terms with the fact that she will never receive it. And any emotion she still had is gradually destroyed by that awareness. You are not alone if this speaks to you or if you have ever experienced the agonizing loneliness of a love that no longer feels like love. As they get older, many women deal with this, frequently in silence. Sixth, having the impression that she is being taken advantage of, the sense of being taken for granted, of giving, sacrificing, and demonstrating love for decades only to feel as though it's no longer acknowledged or valued, is one of the most profound causes of anger in a long-term marriage. Many women eventually come to the realization that the things they used to do out of love, making meals, keeping track of important occasions, and helping their husband through difficult times, have evolved into expectations rather than acts of kindness. Additionally, a marriage loses its warmth as appreciation wanes. Often, there is thankfulness at the start of a relationship. For example, a husband may say, "Thank you for making dinner," or "I appreciate how much you do for me." However, as the years go by, many husbands cease to recognize these little efforts, believing that their wives will take care of everything. And that change from being valued to being expected gradually transforms love into bitterness. Consider Nancy, a retired school administrator who is 72 years old. She had managed her household without complaint for years. She ensured that her husband's favorite dishes were served. She planned appointments, organized the house, and took care of the small details that made their lives easier. But as time passed, she became aware of something. He stopped saying thank you altogether. There was stillness when she made the effort to do anything meaningful, as though it were just part of her job description. "Do you even notice how much I do for you?" she questioned her husband one day after spending hours cooking a supper. What was his response? A shrug of confusion. She understood then that he had completely lost interest in her efforts. It is awful to be invisible in your own marriage. A lady becomes exhausted after years of providing without ever being acknowledged or receiving anything in return. And eventually, she no longer feels the need to offer. The fact that many men are unaware of how much their wives do in the first place is the true problem, not merely that they cease expressing gratitude. On the surface, a woman who has dedicated her life to managing the domestic chores, remembering birthdays, providing emotional support to her husband, and maintaining the marriage may appear to be doing well. On the inside, though, she can feel spent, worn out, and invisible. The thing that many men don't realize is that animosity doesn't stem from a single significant incident. 1,000 little moments of feeling undervalued are the cause of it. A woman begins to emotionally distance herself when she no longer feels appreciated. Her laughter has diminished. She no longer strikes up discussions. She quits doing the small acts of love she used to do because she has nothing left to give, not because she wants to punish her husband. Many husbands are unaware that it doesn't take much to show appreciation. A woman can feel appreciated and acknowledged with a simple "thank you," an occasional "I see how much you do," or even an unanticipated compliment. However, the emotional bond also ends when those words are entirely removed. If you've ever wondered if your husband even notices everything you do, or if you've ever felt like you're giving without getting anything in return, realize that your feelings are real. Many women struggle in silence, questioning whether their efforts are still worthwhile. Please leave a number 6 comment below to let me know if you are still viewing this video and finding these ideas helpful. Your interaction enables me to keep producing content that encourages and supports you. 7th, acknowledging their growing distance. The realization that they have simply grown apart, that the man they once laughed and dreamed with now feels like a stranger, is one of the most devastating reasons why women start to despise their spouses as they get older. This takes time to accomplish. It develops gradually over years of habit, disregard, and a failure to maintain emotional ties. Who is this person? And how did we get here? A woman asks herself one day as she gazes at her spouse. Deep connection, long talks, common objectives, and the sense of being true life partners is the foundation of many marriages. However, life gets in the way as the years pass. Stress, obligations, children, and careers start to take precedence. Additionally, a pair will unavoidably grow apart if they don't actively work to grow together. Lack of meaningful discussion is often the first indication of the shift for women. They become aware that their communication with their spouse has changed. They may talk about everyday routines, family planning, and expenses, but the deeper connection is lost. The interest in one another's feelings and thoughts has diminished. She may attempt to raise a significant issue, but he dismisses it with brief, uninteresting answers rather than interacting. She eventually gives up trying. Consider Margaret, a retired social worker who is 74 years old. She used to spend late nights discussing her dreams, anxieties, and future plans with her spouse when they were younger. Now, though, the conversations had gotten clumsy. He would only mumble and answer when she asked him what he thought about something significant, or he would return the subject to the TV news. He hardly paid attention when she attempted to discuss her hobbies or personal development. She came to the realization that she was living with someone who no longer knew her well. When women discover that their husbands don't appear to mind, this emotional distance becomes even more agonizing. Many guys carry on as though nothing is wrong, despite the fact that they are extremely lonely. They believe that everything must be all right as long as there isn't a significant conflict. However, emotional detachment hurts a woman just as much as a heated debate. She feels incredibly alone, invisible, and alone in her own marriage as a result. They also frequently come to the conclusion that their interests have changed. Many women acquire new interests, pastimes, or perspectives throughout time, but their husbands stay the same. She could wish to go on a trip, learn a new skill, or have in-depth conversations about life. However, she begins to feel stuck in a marriage that no longer fulfills her if her spouse doesn't change with her. The most agonizing aspect? A lot of ladies lament their previous marriage. They recall the man who used to make them laugh, who would care about their dreams and feelings, and who would hold their hand mindlessly. However, they are left with a spouse who is physically there but emotionally absent when that version of their spouse vanishes. And animosity is fueled by that absence. The fact is that love is something that must be sustained. It does not just happen. A husband gradually becomes a stranger in his own home when he quits making an effort, learning about his wife, and making the decision to maintain an emotional bond. You are not alone if this speaks to you, or if you have ever experienced the silent heartache of recognizing that you and your spouse have drifted apart. This is something that many women experience, and they frequently question whether they are the only ones. Tell me you're still watching this video and that these ideas are useful by leaving a number 6 comment below. Your comments enable me to keep producing content that honors and empowers you. Concluding remarks. Thus, when we conclude this video, pause to consider the topics we have covered. Many women don't become resentful of their husbands overnight. Years of silent annoyances, unfulfilled emotional demands, and the gradual understanding that they are no longer being seen, heard, or cherished contribute to the development of this feeling. Dramatic altercations and significant betrayals aren't always the focus. Small, frequent disappointments are frequently what cause a marriage to deteriorate over time. The crucial thing to keep in mind, though, is that bitterness does not imply that love has vanished. It indicates that something has to change. Many women feel stuck in silence because they think it's too late to deal with these difficulties or that their feelings are too complex to describe. However, it's never too late to demand gratitude, have open discussions, restore a broken connection, or even decide on a different course of action, whatever that may be for you. Be assured that your emotions are legitimate if you identify with any of these symptoms. You're not the only one going through this. The same emotional path has been experienced by several women who have emerged from it stronger, wiser, and more confident. Realizing that you should feel appreciated in your relationship is crucial. You have always done so and always will. I would be delighted to hear from you now. Which of these indicators most spoke to you? Has your marriage ever undergone a change like this? Leave a comment with your ideas. I genuinely like reading about your experiences and observations. We appreciate you being here with us today. We would be delighted to hear from you. Tell us about one thing you learned today and how you intend to apply it in your life in the comments section below. We value your opinions, so please feel free to express them. We are greatly inspired and encouraged by reading your remarks. Please like, subscribe, and share this video if you found it entertaining and useful. We can keep producing high-quality content to educate and uplift you thanks to your support. We appreciate your time and hope to see you in the upcoming video.